All right, so Florence Nightingale. I'm going to turn that down so I'm not echoing. Thank you very much. 1820 to 1910. We left off with the Crimean War. I think we trooped out to Trooper. Last class period from Iron Maiden, which had scenes from the Crimean War in it in the Light Brigade. So very much themed around how military strategy had not caught up with military technology. And so some pretty embarrassing or almost stupid military actions in the Crimean War. But we'll also see some improvements during this time period. Florence Nightingale, who was a British woman, is going to show up on a battlefield with 20 women. Disease took more lives in the Crimean War than actual warfare. And so this is a problem. Remember, we're right bordering on the bacteria solution that we talked about. And so she shows up, the general, assuming that the only reason a woman and 20 other women would be on the battlefield is that they are prostitutes, kindly tells her to take her hewers, since they were, how would you say that in British, the hewers, and go away. She had some connections, though. She was from a rather reputable family, and so she's able to have her connections keep her on the battlefield. And she's going to do some significant improvements to battlefield nurses. The first battlefield nursing, which is a huge deal now. You can save lives on a battlefield. Amazing things are done. So this is the first time, they attempt to keep a wound clean, to keep things, sanitary, to actually help the soldiers before they're too far gone. And then eventually we will see the Red Cross. So she's the first woman to be internationally famous without having to be a queen or something of that nature. So it's a pretty impressive feat. Her Light Brigade was superbly tending to wounded men during the war, although the disease will remain high. We'll see science continue to improve, though. So that's Miss Florence Nightingale. I don't know what that did to the microphone. I hope it's still recording. Anyway, so results of the war. Peace of Paris. This is our consequences and change. Remember, AP Euro always worries about consequences and change. You may want to write that here above letter D, that we are talking about what happened because of this. So Russia's going to emerge as our biggest loser here with the Crimean War. They will have to give up everything they wanted going into this, thinking that they were going to have allies. They'll no longer have control of maritime trade on the Danube. We'll have to recognize Turkish control of the river and renounce claims to Moldavia and Wallachia, which later becomes Romania. Russia will renounce the role of protector of the Greek Orthodox of the Holy Land that they had been holding on to. The Black Sea will be made neutral, which means they can't put a happy little warship on it, which means no warm water port. And independence and integrity of the Ottoman Empire was recognized and guaranteed. Okay? So I want to make sure that this is still recording. At me? Okay, here we go. All right, so aftermath of the war, we're going to see that Russia was shocked. They really went into this thinking that they were going to do something, that they were going to be supported, but they were also really shocked at how far they were behind the rest of the world. So they're going to step off our stage for a little bit to clean house, to take care of some things. They are going to realize that they had to make a change or they were going to be left behind. And they're going to begin to move towards industrialization, which we have seen them not yet do, and modernizing their army. At this point, you need to write that the concert of Europe is shattered. All of that we were talking about, happy days of conservatism and status quo and holding Europe together, this is done. This is the first large war since Napoleon. And Austria and Russia are now separated onto opposite sides. So we are shattered here. It was a good run, but it doesn't make it. Okay. All right, so let's come back to France, because France is always going to start everything when France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches a cold. So we're going to return to them. I was telling someone in the hallway the other day, I think it was one of my sophomores from last year, that I love French history because we have a lot of fun with it. But I would hate to teach, can you imagine if you were a French government teacher? You'd have to teach 50 constitutions and 5 republics. You know how hard it is just to teach one constitution and one government? Can you imagine 50 constitutions? So we're on the second French Republic right now. So we are coming back where we left off. Remember, we'd had the workshops of Louis Blanc, that had become so expensive that they had been shut down, which caused a revolution in France. And then we had a revolution of the working class, and a constitution will be created in the Second French Republic. So under this constitution, we're going to see a unicameral legislature, or National Assembly, a strong executive power, and a popularly elected president of the republic. And that brings us to universal male suffrage. You'll want to circle number 2 here and put the only place in the world at this time to have universal suffrage is France. Not yet. Not yet. They're getting close. Not yet. President Louis Napoleon is seen by voters as a symbol of stability and greatness. He's like a name vote. He's like when Little Bush came to run for president. Like, oh, I don't know who to vote for, but I recognize that guy's name. So, hey. Hello. What's up? So, yeah. Louis Napoleon says hi. So he's kind of a name vote, but he also represents to people a time of stability and greatness. They remember the great things about Napoleon always. Why they don't remember all the crappy things, I will never understand. It's like when he marches back from exile that first time. It's like, really? You don't? He kind of, yeah. So he was seen as voters for this. He was dedicated to law and order. He opposed socialism and radicalism at the beginning. What you could note about Louis Napoleon right here is he's going to flip-flop. He's going to flip-flop from this beginning to where he is at the end. He favors conservatives at the beginning, the church, the army, property owners, and business. But he is going to flip-flop, and I'll tell you why. He believes the conservatives can get him some things he wants at the beginning, I think. And then he kind of backs out when he realizes they aren't going to scratch his back. What you also need to know about him is he lived a lot of his life outside of France. And thus he had little political baggage or background that people could really like, ooh, look who you were. He wasn't really significantly associated with either group. That makes things easier for you. So in return for support of conservatives, Louis Napoleon is going to make concessions. What he wants, and what you need to write to the side of number 4 right here, he wants them to change the Constitution for him. He wants to be able to run for president again and again and again. This is what he wants. It would be like a president, I'm not going to mark my podcast, but if a president in the United States asked to be have more than 2 terms. That's what Louis Napoleon wants. He thinks the conservatives can do that for him. So he's going to scratch a back. He's going to give the Fallot laws, which returns control of education to the church in return for its support. He's like, hey, I need you to say I can be elected like for the rest of my life. I'm going to give school back to you so you can educate children in holy ways. He's going to minimize the influence of the legislative assembly. He's going to support policies favorable to the army. Disenfranchises the poor people from voting. Circle that one for sure. We're going to come back to that. He destroys the democratic socialist movement by jailing or exiling its leaders. So he's playing that whack-a-mole, conservative whack-a-mole. Anything that comes up non-conservative, he destroys. The Legislative Assembly, however, did not grant Louis Napoleon either payment of his large personal debt allowance or a second presidential term. So he scratched their back. What has they not done for him? They have not returned the favor. See, I just would write right here, they do not scratch his back. They do not help him out. In response, Louis's like, all right, man, I played your game. Now I'm going to plan a coup to become emperor. Okay. So now he's going to plan a coup to become emperor. So the Second Empire or Liberal Empire, this is the transition. Draw a line right here. So he quickly flips from conservative to liberal right here at B. When he doesn't get his way, he kind of does what any young child would do and says, well, I'm just going to take it anyway. I'm going to do what I want. In 1851, the Assembly had actually deprived 3 million people the right to vote. So the Legislative Assembly had taken votes. Now remember, D, was Napoleon against taking votes away from people? No, he was totally cool with that. But when the Legislative Assembly does it after they don't do what he asks them to do, he's going to go, oh no, French people, I am the protector of your rights. I am the protector of universal male suffrage. And I am going to come and fight and protect you, the people, and take control of the government for you in a coup in December of 1851, December 1st to be exact, and became emperor the following year. So he restores this universal suffrage in 1852, and guess what? 90% of the population he gave that vote back to vote for him. Well played, Louis Napoleon. They vote to make him president for 10 years. So not only does he get that second term, he gets a 10-year term. France was the only country in Europe, like I said at that time, to provide universal suffrage, kept alive by Louis Napoleon. But you'll get a lot of historians that give him credit for this when really he was just trying to do this to get himself a presidency. Yes, ma'am. 2 to 4, depending on the time of crisis. Depending, like, you know, just like the first Napoleon had like a time of, in a time of crisis, you may be, harkening back even to Rome for Caesar, in a time of crisis, you may be dictator for life for six months, then it becomes dictator for life. Yeah. So, where did I leave off? Oh, 1853, 97% of the voters then vote to make him hereditary emperor. So, what's hereditary emperor mean? Lineage. Yeah. So now they've gone from a 10-year term to you are emperor or president for life, and then when you die, who's president? Your kid. Your kid is president. His kid would be emperor. Yeah. So in 1851 to 1859, circle C here, Napoleon becomes Napoleon III. In his control will be direct and authoritarian. Direct and authoritarian. He dismisses the assembly altogether and this should all sound like really like deja vu. There's a reason that deja vu is a French word. Strengthened centralized power. An imperial aristocracy emerged consisting of wealthy businessmen. He censored the press. The government sponsored official candidates, meaning you could only run for office if you were sponsored by Napoleon himself. So I really think he's going to let opponents get in there. It's been crazy, though, and all of these rules are actually going to make things stable. So people do generally look at Napoleon as if he's done a good thing. Okay, so I think that brings us up to the liberal empire, and now moving on to economic reforms here in a second. What you do need to know about Napoleon's reforms is Are we okay, guys? It's very distracting. Is it something funny to do with this class, or let me guess, soccer?
No, it's not soccer. It's actually, I'll show it to
Okay.
you.
Okay. I just feel like there's this, like, either amazing FIFA thing going on over here, or... Alright. Okay. Darn, the one time it wasn't, I call it. So right here next to D, France sneezes and Europe catches a cold. Authoritarianism, authoritarian governments, this model is going to come from France. And other governments are going to go, hey, look, that's working for them. Maybe we should have one guy with complete control. Oh, how that will not work for everyone. So, Napoleon sets out to build a liberal empire. What did he start? What kind of empire did he start with? Conservative. And now he's known as the liberal empire guy. So, big switcheroo here. He provides a model for other political leaders in Europe. And he demonstrated how government could reconcile popular and conservative forces through authoritarian nationalism, which some do well in this time period and some will do really poorly. His greatest success right here in reforms is economy, which is on the next page. So if you'll flip. Economic reforms are going to result in a healthy economy. We've already talked about these things. The infrastructure thing, the building the wider boulevards, a.k.a. people cannot build barricades, canals, roads. George von Haussmann had redeveloped Paris. France is going to catch up here. Write that to the side. France is going to catch up here. We've been a little bit, behind our rival England. This is where we're really going to catch up. We saw some catching up in the Second Industrial Revolution, but we talked about all of this in Unit 6, a movement towards free trade. Perhaps the first time that any modern state had played such a direct role in stimulating their economy or the economy. So it's definitely circle that last bullet there. We talked about the credit mobilier. You've talked about it in U.S. history. It was an answer on the test last time. We talked about it in Unit 5. It's a U.S. scandal, so I'm not sure. Was that probably first semester for you then last year with U.S. history that you talked to? Yeah. Yeah. France's metallurgical industry rival Britain's, so we definitely see the Second Industrial Revolution allows them. Remember, it's not, don't pay to pioneer, as Andrew Carnegie would say. French investors finance large infrastructure projects in Russia, Spain, and Italy. Suez Canal in Egypt constructed in 1869. And now that Napoleon has a ton of power, he's going to start to make some political reforms. So number 3 up here. Now that he has power, he's like, okay, Legislative Assembly, you can come back. Okay, I've got you in check. I've got things under control. So he reinstitutes the Legislative Assembly. Members were elected by universal suffrage every 6 years. And now opposition candidates had greater freedom. So, wow. Now people I don't like can run, but we'll see. He returned control of secondary education to the government instead of the church. Hey, church, you didn't do what I wanted. Sorry. Taking the schools back. In response, this is where Pope Pius IX issued the Syllabus of Errors, which we've already talked about. That big list of syllabus, like if you think this, you are wrong. If you think this, you are also wrong. And if you think this, you are wrong. Just some of those things. If you think that reason is the human answer, you are wrong. If you think that there's room for other churches, you are wrong. If you think that Protestantism is a form of Christianity, you are wrong. If you think that liberalism is right, you are wrong. If you think the church and state should be separate, you are wrong. If you think that the Pope can or should reconcile to progress, you are wrong.
So am I wrong? The Pope said the other day, he said he wasn't very good with internet type things. And then everybody was like, what? Pope cable infallibility?
Ooh, I bet there's a cool political cartoon now with the Pope like sitting at a computer. Someone has to find that and put it on Edmodo. Yeah. Yes, somebody do it, find it, make it. Let's see. So this is the time of the Syllabus of Errors coming out, condemning liberalism. We're going to see permitting trade unions and their right to strike by Napoleon. So it's kind of like as he gets more power, he starts to ease up on the really harsh things he put in place. He eases censorship. He supports better housing. He supported credit unions. However, big circle on number 4 here. Number 4. Where Napoleon struggles, where all Napoleons have struggled, with foreign policy. Man, I should trace some genetic kind of, I don't deal well with foreign policy. Foreign policy is where he struggles. This is where he runs into his problems, and it's where he'll result in some very strong criticism and demonstrate his weakness as a ruler. He sent French troops to Italy to rescue and restore Pope Pius IX, which is weird because he's not happy with the church, but I think always to the side he's thinking he can have it all. Another genetic trait of Napoleon's. Yeah. The troops remained there between 1849 and 1870. And what really hurts him here is they're like, why are you trying to stop Italy's unification? People are like, aren't you supposed to be this liberal guy and you're like running the liberal empire now? Like, why would you step in and stop someone else's liberal movement? The act was condemned by Republicans, but supported by conservatives and moderates. So he separates his country, which is something you never want to do once you've become an authoritarian. You want complete control. It's a problem there. French involvement in the Crimean War angered Republicans and liberals as well. Issue of colonialism in Algeria and other. I'm sure you guys watched. Did you guys watch the video on Algeria and world history and AP, the struggle with French colonies and Algiers? Oh, okay. Really good movie if you get a chance to watch it. It's a It's a like. Oh, see, I knew there'd be FIFA somewhere in here. So they're having problems with their colonies. And so Napoleon, here's my 2 cents. I think Napoleon becomes a liberal reformer to like be like, look over here. See, like, look, do not pay attention to the hand over here. Like, liberal reforms will distract people at how badly his foreign policy is going. I really think that he kind of plays that like, hey, don't look here, but look there. The Franco-Prussian War we're going to come back to at the end of this unit. We're looking ahead a bit, but we'll come back when Germany unifies this weekend. But the Franco-Prussian War, Napoleon is actually going to be captured by the Prussians. Spoiler alert. And resulted in the collapse of the Second Empire. So we will see the rise of the Third Empire. The Empire Strikes Back in this one. Italian unification now. Yay! Italian unification means we're one step closer to German unification. But both of them are going to cause us problems. So, finally, do you realize, like, I don't know why you guys are not excited. We started this whole year, the first day of class, we started talking about Italian city-states. And we are now finally strapping this thing together. So after the collapse of the revolutions of 1848 to 1849, the unification movement in Italy is going to shift to Sardinia and Piedmont. Okay, so the kingdom of Piedmont and Sardinia in the north. We're going to see that those dreamers, those romantics, are going to take a step back, except for one. For my people who do like romanticism, we will see one romantic be successful. One. From Italy. Yeah. So the movement is going to shift under King Victor Emmanuel. So we are going to replace some peoples here. Count Cavour and Garibaldi. These are the three must-know names for the unification of Italy. King Victor Emmanuel, his prime minister Count Cavour, and Garibaldi. I've typed them there for you under letter A. Please make sure that you know each of those individuals. They're going to replace our early guys of Mazzini, Pope Pius IX, and Gioberti from Unit 6. So this is where we shift to some real politics, some planning, some step-by-step instead of romanticism. So Count Camillo Benso di Cavour. That's a fun name, right? 1810 to 1861 of Sardinia, Piedmont is actually going to be our lead. So it is our prime minister that kind of does all the dirty work for our King Emmanuel here. He leads the struggle for Italian unification. He serves as the prime minister. So who do you think that he wants to unify Italy under? Who's his king? Not himself. Victor Emmanuel. He's actually very loyal to his king. He wants to unify it under King Victor Emmanuel. He was essentially a moderate nationalist. So he wasn't all out there. He was a realist and an aristocratic liberal. He came from money. But he wants to unify all of Italy. If you remember where we left off with Italy, so we had left with all of these places divided. So we have the northern part, Sardinia and Piedmont, being held by Austria. So that's kind of where we left off in Italy after the revolutions of 1848. Then you have the middle part here, the Papal States, being held by the Pope. And then in the south, you have the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, and then the Boot Hill here. You have them all by different little kings. So we do not have any sense of unification in Italy at all, even by type of ruling or by type of trade or by money. They're very divided. So kind of like North and South in the United States when we're going through the Civil War. You can kind of see them like that. So they're not even united politically or economically. You might want to make a note of that we're trying to unify a group of individuals who don't really have anything to unify them other than the spirit to do so. Cavour replaced the earlier failed unification revolutionaries such as Mazzini and the Young Italy movement, and is going to carry out some pretty well thought out plans. He was also, in his free time, the editor of Il Risorgimento, a newspaper arguing Sardinia should be the foundation of a new unified Italy. And then he guided Sardinia Piedmont into a liberal and economically viable state, a strong state. So he is going to pull the north together, and then we're going to see what's going to happen with the south in a little bit. So, who sneezes and the rest of Europe catches a cold? France. He is going to model his his work on the French Constitution of 1830 and reform the judicial system and build infrastructure. The law of convents and Saccati law will also seek to reduce the power of the church. So they're going to follow Napoleon's lead and, hey, we need to cut the church out. We need to get the church out of the way, because he knows once he gets this part unified, where's he got to head? Right through Pope land. Right through here. You got to get the church under control. In response, again, Pope Pius isn't just looking at Napoleon when he writes his Syllabus of Errors. He's also like, dirty Cavour and King Emmanuel. So it's very much directed to these two leaders and why he's so focused on liberalism and rationalism. One thing that Cavour does that really ticks the Pope off, they take away ecclesiastical laws which kept the clergy immune to judicial judgment under the law. So you could pretty much at this time have gotten away with anything if you were the Pope or a clergy member. You weren't subject. It's kind of like having immunity, and he takes that away. And just imagine how many priests found themselves in front of a court right after that. So that's one thing he does to really tick the Pope off. So going on here. So there's the map. Have you guys started to color your map yet? You will need to know the unification series. So the entire packet will be due by the end of next week. You need to be up to the modernization of Russia by Wednesday, please, and thank you. I will put that screen back up, and it's also going to pop up on Edmodo at 3:30. So if you're on your iPads, don't let it freak you out. It's going to pop up as an alert. There's a picture. I love the beards in this unit. I love the beards moving. I pretty much love the facial hair of the whole rest of the year, so you're just going to have to... I always feel like I wish I could reverse this class and teach it backwards, because we definitely need some of these guys in Movember. But King Emmanuel, right here. Here's Count Cavour. Not so fun, a facial hair, but still facial hair. And then the only romantic you will ever hear me say, like, I could deal with Garibaldi. Garibaldi. And he reminds me of someone, and I can never put my finger on it. Like, I just stare at this picture, I'm like, he looks like my econ teacher from high school or something, I think. I don't know, but Garibaldi. Yeah, he's just stoic looking. Yeah, maybe I'm just having all kinds of, like, yeah. So, Cavour, who's this gentleman right here. You can just see the difference between realist, romantic. Realist, romantic, realist, romantic. He's our realist, step by step. He wants to start in the north and head towards the central part of Italy and unify as he goes. In 1855, Cavour convinces King Emmanuel to join Britain and France in the Crimean War against Russia. They have no reason to join this war at all. What would they seek to gain from joining this war with Britain and France? Bragging rights, but also what usually happens to you after you're on the side with someone in a war. Yeah, the spoils and allies. They're looking for allies to help them in their unification. So here's another one of those secret alliances. What are going to be one of our problems going into World War I? Secret alliances. Write secret alliances next to Plombières. 1859 right here. Cavour is going to go to Napoleon III and get a promise from him that France would support a Sardinian war with Austria for the creation of a northern Italian kingdom in exchange for the Italians going to war with the French and British. Okay? Sardinia would annex a number of Italian states such as Venice, Lombardy, Parma, Modena, and part of the Papal States. And in return, France would get Nice and Savoy. Okay? So now here's the problem. We've got an ally. We've got a secret alliance. Who do we need to get into a tiff with? Austria. Is that what you said, Laura? I just heard the end of it. We need to get into a war with Austria. So we're going to start poking at Austria. We are going to start making mama jokes or whatever it takes to get someone to hit you in the face. So how can we get Austria to go to war with us? We start provoking the Lombardians, who are also under the control of the Austrians, to revolt. So we start prompting. We're like, hey, Lombardians, the Austrians, like, they suck. Like, things would be better if without them. And so we get them all riled up and they revolt. and then the Austrians take the Lombardians' guns away, and then they come in and they're like, oh no, Lombardians, that is totally unfair. Let us give you some guns and take care of you. So, in return for that, Cavour's is smart. He doesn't declare war because that would look bad, right? Who wants to join you when you're picking on other people? But Austria declares war on Sardinia in 1859 after being provoked. What don't they know is hiding behind the background? A secret alliance with France and Britain. Would you ever have declared war on little yet? No. So write secret alliance again, like big letters right here. So Sardinia, Piedmont in this tiff are going to gain Lombardy, but not Venetia. Not yet. So underline, but not Venetia. There are 3 stages to Italian unification. You will probably be asked on the AP multiple choice section, like in this year, this is what the map of Italy would look like. I know, right? I don't do it. It's old white guys. I'm just saying. It'll be fine. We're going to look. You're going to color. We're going to. All right. So, France isn't going to be that great of an ally, though. France is going to briefly come to Sardinia's aid in 1859. Briefly. They're going to come long enough to get what they were promised in the secret alliance. Yet France is soon going to back away from the Plombières Agreement, the secret alliance. There are a couple reasons. France is scared of Prussia. There's no better way. I sat here and over the keyboard for 10 minutes and was like, synonym for scared. Alternate sentence for France is scared. They're scared. There's not a better political way to say it. They're scared. Austria's strength and military power also freaks them out. And Napoleon's not doing so good. Remember he's doing, look over here. Well, so his foreign policy's not going so great. So they're going to actually, because of the pressure on Napoleon, not stay for very long in Sardinia's defense. In 1860, Cavour is going to arrange the annexation of Parma, Modena, Romagna, and Tuscany into Sardinia, just like we planned when they were poking at Austria. And France supports Cavour in return for receiving the territories of Nice and Savoy. So they fulfill the secret alliance, but we're not going to see France really stick around. And this is where we have our romantic step in. This is where Garibaldi's going to come in. Oh, these are our 3 guys that got replaced. Oh, look at all that stuff I typed up. Poop. I just was stuck on the picture. Okay, so here's a better map anyway. So here's the Kingdom of Sardinia and Piedmont. So it's all this northern area. So now we've got Lombardy, Parma. We're moving down. So his plan is working step by step. We've taken these areas. We're moving down. What's the next portion? The Papal States. And what else do we still have to unify? What haven't we touched at all? Yeah, the 2 Sicilies, the south. So here comes Giuseppe Garibaldi. Write romantic next to him. He just even has a romantic name. 1807 to 1882. He is going to be our liberator of the South. So instead of going straight for the Papal States, we're going to start to see we're moving this way and this way at the same time. Okay, so this is a great map. I'll put this PowerPoint on Edmodo too for those of you coloring your map and wanting to remember, because this has great dates of when territories were acquired. Like right here, 1815, the green, this is Italy, and then we're going to acquire these territories 1859 to 1860, and then you'll see what's the last place to go. 1860 to 1870 is Venetia and Rome. Okay, so this is a great way. So if you had this map and it was like this and it didn't have this pink area here and it asked you what year were you in, you know you're not past 1860. So this will be a good study map. So I'll make a note. Put map on Edmodo. And you have the map in your packet too. Okay. So, man, I typed up all this stuff and didn't even use it. Isn't that a bust? Okay, but this makes up for it. There's a really cool picture of Giuseppe Garibaldi. So he is going to liberate the part of southern Italy. He's going to go, as we would call it, up the boot. He is an example of romantic nationalism. He is from that time period in Mazzini and the Young Italians. He had actually been arrested for his revolutionary activities in the 1848 to 1849 revolutions and escapes from jail and escapes to South America, where he falls in love with a woman named Anita. and she is in Brazil, and she is a revolutionary, and she's like, let's free Uruguay, and he's like, let's do it, and just on their love and the building of troops, they actually do free Uruguay from the from the Europeans. I lost my train of thought. And so then they come back together after the, and they're going to be then, let's take our love and free southern Italy, which is where he's from. So once he starts to see that Cavour is able to go north, he's like, I'm going to come back. I'm not, they're not looking for me in prison anymore. And he's going to take the south. So Garibaldi in 1860 has 1,000 red shirts. So that's their symbol, the red shirts. Yeah. 1,000 followers in Garibaldi, that's all he has, are going to land in Sicily and extend the nationalist activity to the south. By September, Garibaldi is going to take control of Naples and the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. Garibaldi, I have this great quote, and I always write it down to remind to tell you. I offer neither pay, nor quarters, nor food. I offer only hunger, thirst, forced marching, and battles and death. Let him who loves his country with his heart, and not merely with his lips, follow me. Nothing but the joy of freeing Italy is my pay. So very romantic statement, very romantic, but also gets it done. Although, so Cavour does not know Garibaldi. What he sees coming from the south is this crazy bearded guy in red shirts with this romantic, like, I give you to those who love Italy with their heart. He's like, I don't know about this. He doesn't trust him, but Garibaldi's getting stuff done. Because Victor Emmanuel, the king's like, I don't know, this guy's getting stuff done, now we don't have to worry about it. And so he encouraged Garibaldi's exploits, and Cavour's going to plan a meeting between the two. And so they're actually going to meet up, and Garibaldi is a true romantic. He's like, yeah, because he just keeps marching. He doesn't set up a government. He doesn't try to take anything. He just keeps marching through with 1,000 people and liberating stuff. So Cavour keeps coming behind him with like the little dustpan and is like, yeah, you're under King Emmanuel now. And so Garibaldi, when they meet together, is when Cavour says that Sardinia should be the head of it, it's like, sure, I have no plans for a kingdom. I'm freeing the Italians. He's that romantic. And Garibaldi thus allowed his conquest to be absorbed into Sardinia, Piedmont, because he's a dreamer. He has no problem with it. And so that's going to just add to Cavour's plan. And so they call a meeting. They meet in the middle. From the north, they meet in the Papal States, the two. And Garibaldi's just like, all right. And Garibaldi goes off to his little farm in the south and retires with his love. And that's done. Yeah. Yeah. He gets it done. Yeah, he's like, he gets it done. Yeah, and some student did on Edmodo, and I'd have to dig up their post from last year or open their page and transfer it over, but went on to find out, like, he ended up having children and stuff, and, like, was really interested in how this one fairy tale worked out, but I don't want to be a spoiler. I do think that there was a little bit of drama in there. I don't know if it's another woman or something, but it would be interesting if you guys could find the same info, but it is happier than almost everything that we have heard about. So, by February of 1861, circle number 4 here, we're on page 9, Victor Emmanuel was declared king of Italy and presided over an Italian parliament. So it all works out very well with the help of a dreamer and a planner. But not much work by the king himself at all. So, in 1861, think of that map. We have all of Italy as you think of it today, except for Rome and Venice. Rome and Venice would not be on an Italian map in 1861. Then in 1866, yes. Well, yeah, they'd be on the map, but they wouldn't be part of a unified Italy. In 1866, Venice was incorporated into an Italian kingdom. So in 1866, you would see Venice on the unified map. So here's our map. Sardinia in 1859, 1860, incorporated all of this purple. Oops. And then we have transferred the Kingdom of Italy in 1866, so then that's going to give us Venetia. And then Sardinia agreed to open up the front against Austria during the Austro-Prussian War, which we're going to get to in return for its annexation of Venice. And then 1871 is going to be our final Italy. We'll finally see, where does this date also ring true? What else will we be talking about in 1871? unification of Germany. Scary year. Let's just put it that way. Like, I would love to look back and see, like, what other kind of, like, crazy, like, prolific, horrible things that happened in 1871. You know, like, I've never really thought of it that way, to go back and be like, who was born or something. They're like... and so, we see Rome. So, you need to know those 3 transitions, guys, on the map. So, you want to make a note here to know the map in 3 different transitions, what it would look like. There's something else that I want to talk to you about with Italy. So I told you from the beginning that the Italians weren't a lot alike. The North and the South were very different. When you think of like Jersey Shore, that's Southern Italians, mainly Southern Italians came to the United States. Very dark complexion. I'm not saying like the attitude or anything, but very different dialect. Dark complexion, dark hair. When you go northern Italy, it's going to be closer, like lighter skin, lighter colored eyes. That's why people are like, when you say, oh, you're Italian, I'm not Italian, I'm Sicilian. Like, that's where that comes from. They saw themselves as very different. So though politically unified now under one king, there's a great social and cultural gap between the 2 areas. So one's progressive, one's not. One's industrialized and rich, one's not. So the North is industrialized and rich. It's going to sound very familiar to us. And the South is stagnant and agrarian. And so we see some problems with a non-unified front, although politically unified. And that is it. We're going to come back to the age of mass politics, the unification of Germany. That's why there's a hole there between my slides. Unification of Germany is the video this weekend with a review of the whole unit. That'll take us all the way through the end.